Hey everybody, I'm Trevor.
I'm Vincent.
And we are the Anthony and Todd Show, and today we're going to be talking about the latest Quelle Chris record, Gunz.
Gunz.
God damn it. Quelle Chris is a Detroit art rapper, and honestly, one of the quirkiest and most underrated rappers on the scene right now, working with the likes of Mellow Music Group. He is probably most well known for his 2017 record, Being Used Great, I Wish I Could Be You More Often, which ended up being my personal favorite of 2017, as well as his collaborative record last year with his fiance, now wife, Jean Grey, another fellow rapper, called Everything's Fine with Jean Grey. Everything's fine with Jean Grey.
Everything's fine
not with
Jean
everything
Grey.
else, just with his marriage. That's good to hear. And he started releasing a couple of singles over this past year, over the past, 2 months?
Yeah.
Probably. Had a single called Gunz, the title track for this record, literally all about just shootings across America and gun violence. And
It's how guns affected these individuals, at least in the first verse where he lists off all these specific characters, how guns affected their life. And then on the hook, he essentially personifies guns. He's talking about how guns are going to come into your city. Like he is the gun.
they're going to walk right into your door.
How like guns are essentially just this like personification now. Like he's just... the weapon is now speaking, which is interesting.
He had a couple other singles like Straight Shot, which is essentially just a huge posse cut, and Obamacare, both of which sounded like really deep cut material. Quelle Chris really isn't one for singles.
Yeah, it sounded deep cut, but in a sense, I feel like these are his most accessible singles to date.
Yeah, especially I think Straight Shot, which is just a crooning piano ballad with like I said, like 4 features or something.
And also, Obamacare is very, I feel, kind of par for the course for experimental hip hop. Not to say it's par for the course by any means, but in comparison to the larger genre of experimental hip hop, I think it's more fitting in that form.
Yeah, for sure. So Gunz as an album was produced entirely by Quelle himself, Dane, and Chris Keys. It's got features from, like I said, Jean Grey, Bilal Solomon, longtime collaborator Denmark Vesey, fellow Detroit rapper, as well as a ton of others. And like we said, the whole record is about guns entirely. Being a Quelle Chris fan, like I said, Being Used Great was one of my favorites. It was my favorite of 2017. I find this record to be, like you said, par for the course for Quelle.
Yeah.
I have pretty much loved everything that he has released so far that I have listened to. And Gunz, I feel like, follows more the formula of Being You Is Great. I think Everything Is Fine kind of broke away from that a little bit because he had Jean Grey as a sense to counterbalance what he was doing.
Well, a lot of the album was about that contrast between the tones, and it's the build up and the chemistry between the two and how they kind of level each other out. Jean's heavy-handedness and Quelle's shapelessness and how those two play out. And this, what I found really surprising about a Quelle album is how it's taking the risks that Quelle usually takes and like the places and the atmospheres we're going to, but now they're all like canon with one another. They flow a lot better than they do on previous projects. Comparing this to Being Used Great, it hits all the same emotional beats. It hits all the same atmospheres.
It's a lot of the same sketches as well.
Yeah, but now it's all like in one universe. It all flows really well throughout the course of the project, and that's something I wasn't really expecting. Because while I like Quelle, he tends to have a lot of ideas and a lot of I guess areas he wants to go with his music, and in this it feels like just one collective space.
Yeah,
which is nice.
I think that I really missed just the solo Quelle performance. I really like the weird stuff that he does on his solo records. And while I thought Everything's Fine was incredible, like you said, the contrast came at the forefront. Now Quelle's own personality is at the forefront, and that's the reason I liked Being Used Great so much. Is because I just felt like I was getting a piece of like his heart and soul poured out into his music. I think that the whole record was about being yourself and just kind of a lot of goofy stuff. But on this record, he has a specific theme. I was joking earlier about how this record is basically J. Cole's KOD, but done right, in saying that like J. Cole picked one singular subject and attempted to make an entire record about it. And like drug overdose is not always like the most prominent subject in rap music. but J. Cole like fell really flat. But Quelle is essentially taking another like not super talked about issue, gun violence at its core, and makes it his own. And sometimes he talks about it in like really just weird, Quelle-esque ways, like stuff that only he can come up with. He's got a lot of the same like vocal splices that he used on Being Used Great, or like he like cut different music, or like on Osh on Everything's Fine, where he's got vocal samples of somebody saying like the infamous Trump quote, I could stand out in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose. I think that kind of character that he throws into here doesn't always make it seem like this is a very preachy album. But I think at its core, like, it does have a message, and it is trying to send a message, however, like, weirdly delivered that is.
Yeah, one of the tracks I enjoyed the most was the track Mind Your Business, because it brings the idea of essentially... It also kind of follows up with Box of Wheaties, too.
Oh, yeah.
This essentialness of kind of, like... whiteness in a sense, and how in our culture you have to kind of be white to be successful. In that element of, they mentioned I think it's what's his name, feature on that Ugly Boy Modeling mentions Kanye wearing the Magna hat, and that's the only way you can be successful in life is not by being yourself, and not being true to yourself is you have to put on whiteface and be something you completely not, follow the role of the Republicans, and just be vindictive fucking fascists. And I like how they're bringing up this concept, because it brings up the idea with a lot of gun violence, at least for I guess minorities. It comes from the fact that guns are their only source of power, because they don't really have anything else. They don't have the opportunities a lot of other people have,
right?
Because they don't have enough. And essentially we're getting the only source of power being shown on this album, which I think is interesting that it made me think about it that way.
Yeah, I also agree with that, but I also think that Quelle, in the style that he's making this record, is also showing that he can overcome guns, and that him and his friends and features and family can overcome the power that gun brings, like with their own artistry.
Yeah.
Like I said, you can make like a really heavy-handed, trying to be serious record, and it can fall flat. But you can also make a record based around like one heavy-hitting subject, but make it, your own. Make it your own art, and it's going to be a lot more resonating than something that falls flat.
Yeah, Box of Wheaties, where he's saying he should be on a box of Wheaties for just being himself. And I think that's the true sentiment of this album, is that if you're yourself, you should be, I guess, not rewarded, but respected for that fact that you are 100% when you're yourself. Mm-hmm. You're not anyone else. Going on to some later moments with You, Me, and Nobody Else. Really like, Miseducation of Lauryn Hill / like College Dropout vibe.
Yeah.
Just that style. I love how it's just it's an ode to Jean Grey and their love, and it's really nice and sweet. I just find it to be like a really heartwarming moment towards the end. And then Will You Remember Me, the last track, an album about guns, and how essentially our world is in this constant state of paranoia. I like how we get this reflection of Will I Be Remembered, because it could be ended at any moment, because we just live in this society where it's fucking crazy and anything could happen at any moment. And it's nice that he is having this reflection of will he be remembered, and I think he should, because his catalog has been fantastic thus far.
And he seems to be a really, really just great person overall.
Yeah.
Very true to himself.
Other moments like Obamacare comes down, that he's not trying to break in, he's just trying to burn down the system, which I think is really fun. The very deep, dark, almost trap-esque piano, something you would hear on like a stereotypical trap beat, but this is like almost wailing guitar being just over and over, high-pitched, just in forefront, nasally guitar, which is nice.
Yeah. Speaking of nasally, I really enjoyed the return of this, like, I can only assume it's like a mobster character.
Yeah.
Where he, we was eating garbage, now we're eating with the big boys at Long John Silver's. Comes back, and now he's, like, when that showed up, it was almost like a fan favorite, like, cameo. And I don't think that he serves really any sort of big purpose. Like, this character doesn't really serve, like, a bigger purpose.
I think it's, I was trying to think about that, and I think it's supposed to, like, represent, like, a Donald Trump character. character.
I mean,
But
very
I couldn't
possible.
really find purpose to it because, like, that's one of the offbeat moments that's kind of similar to the Donald Trump quote. So I kind of just put those two together as like one idea.
I definitely didn't catch it on Being Used Great when he used it then,
Yeah.
but now, now that seems to make a little more sense.
No, I don't know about Being Used Great, but for this project, I think it's
the same character.
in a sense, but I think it's played by a different person because it was played by Quelle before. I thought.
I think it is Quelle.
Oh, is it still Quelle?
I honestly think
something.
I think it's still Quelle.
Okay.
He's just gotten older and his voice has deepened.
Because it just sounded like someone else. I like also the idea of we got this PSA from like it sounds like the 60s where you need to get rid of your guns. I like the idea that the PSA is about you getting rid of your guns instead of the government doing something to get rid of guns. So it's on the fact of the individual and it's not on the fact of the people who actually make the rules and make money from signing up all these contracts with the NRA.
Mm-hmm.
I just found that to be an interesting idea.
I think Quelle really, I think he really did his research and really dug deep into this subject. I really can't think of any really weak moments on this project.
Yeah, even there isn't any moments throughout where he's just giving us statistics, and when there's only one, and it's on Sunday Mass with Bilal.
Solomon.
There's only one, and it's on the track Sunday Mass with Bilal Solomon. And essentially, it's done in effect to just show the wide scale of this still happens. Gun violence is still happening.
Yeah.
Like, how? I think we get a lot of ideas thrown across this thing, and it's not just all about guns. We dip into areas of race and even of like toxic masculinity at times.
I think that they all tie in together.
Yeah,
You know,
and power most definitely.
Yeah. It's difficult to make an album just about one specific subject without tying in like other things to it. But I think that his tie-ins make a lot of sense. I don't feel like he's stretching. I don't feel like he's preaching to me. I don't feel like his morals were sacrificed in order to make this. I compare this a lot to, like I said, KOD, but then another one that came to mind was the recent 2 Chainz record, Rapper Go to the League, where I feel like he was trying to make a broader statement, and 2 Chainz was more or less like trying to be himself on that record, but a lot of the time it just fell flat because there'd be sometimes where like at the end, the very end, where they're talking about taxes. Mm-hmm. I just felt like that was like really preachy and kind of pointless.
Yeah.
There were some like really just pointless statistic-ridden ideas on that record. While this, I just feel like it really is a piece of art.
Yeah.
And it whatever message it gets across is for art's sake. But Quelle is he's very coy. He knows what he's doing. He knows the message that he's trying to bring across, and so Quelle never specifically tells us the ideas that we're discussing here. Mm. We came to those by ourselves because of the piece of art invoked that in us.
Yeah.
So I think that Quelle really hit this on the head here.
And one thing I want to talk about before we end this interview with the track Straight Shot, which we talked a little bit about, but I like how he has a pianist on the track. I like, you said it's posse cut. I just find it like as a call for desperation.
It's not so much a posse cut like Prison Cypher would be or like NCAA would be. I mean, it's like a posse cut because it's just got like tons of features.
But like, I just like that like air of desperation, this air for yearning for like, it's just a call for hope in a sense. Mm-hmm. We just need a straight shot. I also like the title Straight Shot.
Yeah.
Gone. But I just feel it's so breezy, breathless. It's something that would have closed previous Quelle Chris records, but it reminds me a lot of Being Used Great before you get into the encore section. I just think it's like just this air of desperation and hope and just yearning for not only acceptance of yourself, but yearning for that the world around you reflects how you feel about yourself. And I find that to be really nice and blatant. There's a ton of hits on this record. Quelle does it again. I just want to listen to this album more because I feel like every time I listen to it, I at least learn something new about the record and the ideas that are presented. It has a lot of ideas to it, but it isn't forcing them on you. It requires you to have a lot of introspective if you kind of make out what the ideas are on this project. Mm-hmm. I think that's all I really got to say. He did a great job with this. And
for sure.
Leave it at that. Till next time, guys, I'm Vincent.
I'm Trevor.
And see you, boys.
Bye, everybody.